So hello everyone, in this video we are going to learn about some different attributes we can use. So let's start that. So we have to remove the previous one, and now the code should be normal. Yeah, you can see that. Now we have one more thing here, that we can also specify input type text here, that you know well. But in that we also have one restriction, that like how much the text length should be. So if I want a length of 4 characters only, so I can specify that by using max length attribute. So I can specify max length here. Inside that I can specify, let's say, 4. So only the length of the data which is going to going to be written in this will be limited to 4. I cannot type mm, longer than a 4 text, or 4 characters are limited to it. But it is only valid for input type text, so you cannot write it for input type number, that won't work. But for the number you can write input type. So you can see that it is actually not accepting that, but we can specify the minimum value for input type number, as we did in the input type date. We specified the minimum value and a maximum value, that we can also do in this input type number as well. So I can write the minimum value to 4, not less than 4. If I write 2 here, then the submission will be giving me the error, which is value must be greater than or equal to 4. So if I write 67 here, it will also give me the error that value must be less than or equal to 10. So I can write only the values between 4 and 10. So that is going to submit. This is actually we can do with min and max attribute. Then there is required attribute. So like if I don't do anything, if I don't add required attribute here, so I can easily submit the field. Like if the field is empty, we can easily submit that. So the submission is occurring, no error is there, right? But if I want some restriction that this field is required, you cannot submit the field without adding any data. So that what it does. So required attribute allows us to uh, make the field required. So it is now necessary to input some value in this field, otherwise it isn't going to submit the form. So if I don't write anything, if I click on submit, then it's going to give me the error that please fill out this field, because it is a required field. This is the thing we do in this. Similarly, we have the other input type. Let's say if I add let's say text. Also, we have a read only attribute in which we cannot type anything. So read only attribute allows us to create a field in which user cannot type anything. I cannot type anything, but it will submit the data whatever is going to be added in here. So if I add some value, let's say read, and if I give it a name as well, and I can remove the required, you got the point, right? So I can add a number, let's say a number or num, and I can also write a name, let's say f name. So it is going to submit this read if I not write anything inside this field. So if I write a number, so you can see that the value is there, but I cannot modify this because it is a read only field. We cannot change this value, but we can submit the value which is inside this field. So you can see that the value is sent to the server. But if I add a different attribute which is disabled, if I add a disabled field, that will also do the same thing which read only is doing. Read only is allowing us to block this field. We cannot write anything inside that, but we can submit the default value which is given by us here, but we cannot change that value. But if we add a disabled attribute in a field, then that will restrict the user to submit the value of that field as well. So I cannot submit the data. So you can see that in the earlier one, we were able to send the data here, right? So if I refresh that, so we were able to submit the data when I click on submit. But in this, if I added a disabled field, I cannot send this data to the server. This will be ignored because this is having a disabled attribute. So you can see that only one value is submitted at the backend. But if we add read only here, so that value will be submitted, but user cannot change that. In both the situation, user cannot change the values, but in the disabled case, the value will not be submitted to the server. So this is actually the read or the disabled attribute we can specify. And there were other attributes as well, multiple. We discussed about that placeholder, we discussed about that. So these kind of attributes we have already discussed. So some of the attributes aren't discussed yet. The one which I want to discuss now is the placeholder attribute. Oh, sorry, the pattern attribute, sorry. So if I write anything, for example, let's say text, and if I add a placeholder here, and if I add 3 4 5 3 4, let's say 5 6 3, let's say 1 2 3. So this is the pattern I want. So I only want, let's mm, add this. So I want uh, 3 characters of name. So 3 characters of text, not the number, but the text. So if I do that, so now you can see, so you can see it is suggesting me that you have to write IND here. But right now I can add anything. I can write numbers. I can write anything. If I click on submit, that will be submitted, right? But we cannot actually restrict the user to submit only this kind of values, which is nothing but 3 characters of text. If I want that, so how can I do this? This is very easy. You can let me just give it a name first. So I can write country, let's say, and inside that I can specify the pattern attribute. This is very important attribute. You have to remember this. Inside that we have a square bracket and a curly bracket. So in the square bracket, we specify what kind of characters we are allowing in this field. So in the square bracket, I'm allowing only the capital letters of a text. And what should be the length that we have to specify in the curly brackets. So the length of the characters should be 3. So we'll be specifying 3 here. So in this field, I have specified a pattern that all the letters from A to Z, which are capital A to Z, with the length of 3 characters are allowed, not more than that. And we cannot enter any other character than this, like from capital A to capital Z is allowed, but not the small ones, or the numbers are not allowed. That we can do now. Like if I add anything now, so that will not be submitted. It is going to give me this error, which is please match the requested format, because we are not matching the format. What is the format? The format is nothing but 3 characters or 3 capital characters. If I submit that, then that's submitted. But if I do anything else, then that will be giving me that error. So this is how we actually add a pattern attribute. Similarly, I can also allow the small letters, because now I cannot write small letters. If the length is 3, but still the characters are in smaller case, this will not be a pattern matched. So I can write in capital, I can write, but not in the small ones. So how can we do that? So basically we can allow the user to write the small ones as well. So I can now enter the small letters as well. So no error is there, right? Similarly, I can also allow the numbers from 0 to 9. So 0 to 9 digits are allowed here. So 0 to 9 digits are allowed. So I can write this one as well. So earlier we were not able to write numbers, but only the characters which I allow here. So this is how we can specify the letters which I want to allow in a certain field by adding a pattern attribute. Similarly, we can create a telephone kind of input as well. For example, if I want a number to be having in this format, like example is there, not this one, not the exact number, but the format which I have specified. So the number format I'm telling is 3 characters, then there is a dash, then there is the 2 characters of number, then there is a dash, and then there is a 3 characters of number. So how can I create that pattern? So it is very easy. You just have to follow the same thing, but by adding multiple patterns inside that. So I can specify the numbers which are allowed in for the first part of the example. So the numbers are allowed from 0 to 9 of the length of 3. Then there is a dash. You can see here, the dash is here. So I can specify the dash here. So this is my custom character. So without that, it will not submit the input field. Then we can specify again the 0 to 9 digits and then the number of that digit. So the number of digits in the middle one is 2. So I can specify that too here. Then there is the last part of this number example. I can specify the digits again, 0 to 9, any digit. And in the curly bracket, I can specify the width or the length of that digits. So the 3 is the digit length. So I can specify that here. So now I have created this pattern attribute by adding these numbers and the length of those numbers. And in between I have added this dash. So if the pattern is matched like this, only then I can submit the form. If I write anything else other than numbers, let's say, or the numbers but not in the format, so it will give me the error. So what was the correct format? The correct format was 3 numbers, then there is a dash, then 2 digits of numbers, then there is again 3 digits of numbers. Then I can only submit that. You see here. But if I change that to something else, if I change a little bit, let's say I added 3 digits in between, so that will not be allowed because the pattern is not matched. So this is how we can actually add pattern attribute as well. So these are some attributes you can explore, and also there are multiple attributes as well which I haven't discussed yet. So I hope you got these attributes, and if you want to know more about these attributes or these input attributes, so you can search in the internet and you can get the idea. I told you the website W3 School, so you can go to that and you can learn the theory as well. So how you can perform that, you can get the idea in the detailed manner as well. So the important attributes I told you in this video. I hope you got something. Thank you for watching. Let's meet in the another one.